It is Aaron Sands, and welcome to King Talk Season 3. Let's get smarter.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, your host of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast and 1/4 of the Premier Boy Podcast. And you are now listening to my brother Aaron King Talk Sands Show, King Talk with Aaron Sands. Yeah!
King Talk. Yeah, that's me. You already know what it is. It's your man's Aaron Sands. We are back with another one. You already know if it's Fridays, then it's King Talk. Hope all is well. Hope your week went well. And if not, hopefully you'll be able to brighten it up just a bit with this brand new episode. Hope everything is going well. Quick announcements. Yes, after a week, as of this recording, we are still number one on Good Pods. And once again, I have you to thank for that, the fans to thank for that, who continue to listen, to continue to like, share, and subscribe, and bring out and keep bringing this type of content out to the masses. So I definitely appreciate you guys for all you do. Continue to listen. I love you for listening. And thanks a lot, man. It's been a pretty big deal. We're going to still continue to be number one. We're going to try to still put out this great content. And, we're going to grow from there. So you love to see it. You definitely love to see it. You love to see it. Also, at the end of this episode, I have a special announcement for next week's episode. It's a big announcement. So I don't want to Tony Khan it up a little bit. You feel me? But it's definitely a big announcement, and I want to share that with you guys as well. Also, by the time this episode drops, I'll be also making my appearance on the Drunken Idiots podcast. Shout out to those boys over there. I'm going to be on that live this Friday on Discord. So check me out on that. Yeah. So we're going to get after that, we go from there. So we're going to get right into it. So you see the title. You see the artwork, you see everything that goes, that goes with what that comes with. And I'm not gonna hold you. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on this, and then we're gonna get into the special announcement. But of course, we are talking about Drink Champs in the Kanye West episode. I wanted to give it some time to really let the news kind of get out there and everything, let everything get out there as much as possible for me to make my formal comments and commentary about it. So I did listen for the most part to the actual episode, and there were some interesting points. Now, granted, I'm gonna preface this whole breakdown with this statement. We gotta understand, this is Kanye West this is Ye we talking about. And a lot of times with this dude, he'll say some shit, and sometimes people will say, oh, he's just saying these things just for for content to push his new album or whatever like that. He does this for attention, and this might be true. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of gotta take this with a grain of salt. You feel me? I don't want to say take it with a grain of salt. I'm gonna take that back, but you kind of have to preface that with what we're about to get into, because not only his comments, but the way N.O.R.E handled his moves going into the post episode, that makes up, that plays for a lot. So we're gonna get into it. So basically, Kanye West appears as a second appearance on Drink Champs with N.O.R.E and DJ Effin. And he talks about a myriad of topics. One of the things, a few of the things he's talking about, he mentioned a lot about, really, and honestly, this was what is one of the things he's getting major backlash on, is his thoughts on the Jewish media. Now I'm going to try to skate this issue the best way I know how, without getting canceled myself, because if there's two groups that could really cancel you for not coming correct towards them, it's the LGBTQ community and Jews. You really can't come for them without you actually having to make an apology statement, immediately after that, So that's kind of a thing. So we're gonna tread a little lightly, but we're gonna really touch on these points. And he did bring up a lot of good points. I know y'all want me to get into the whole, George Floyd comments that he made as well. We're gonna touch on to that a little bit lightly as well, but we really want to get into these Jewish media comments. And one of the biggest points that he mentioned, and he dropped a lot of gems early in this interview. So one of the things he said, quote, was, "One black man does something bad, all black men gets caught up with them. However, if a black man reaches success, only he can come up. And it's a reverse stigma for white Jews." It's his words, not mine. If a Jewish person, screws an artist out of some deals, they only blame him. But if that same Jewish man attains success, then his whole group comes up. And honestly, that's a truly fair point, because when you look at it, you think about it like this. Think about it like you being, back home and everything like that, or you hanging with your friends and y'all riding around, and then y'all, cops stop you. One of you guys got like some, either a gun on you, some drugs on you, things like that, right? All four of you guys in the car are getting caught up. However, if, one person out of that same group does something successful for everybody, successful in his own mind, whether it be in his professional mindset or professional field or on the social media field, online field, only he comes up. It's not like he could just bring his bros with him to elevate. He has to really make it, and then make it in an abundant level. Then he could bring his bros. He can't bring his bros on to the scene off the strength. So it's a fair point, and I understand where he's trying to come from on that sense. And that's the thing, we have to find a way to come together and then try to build together. That way we won't have to come up one by one. Oh, this guy gets on, I have to wait for him to fully get on before I can then come on next. No, why not come through together? He also brings up the fact that he lost out on 4 stadium shows because of his comments regarding Jewish media. He mentions it here when he's talking about DEF CON, and I feel like a lot of people took that the wrong way, because he says in the interview, quote, "DEF CON stands for protecting himself, from certain business situations." And he mentions that because of his stadium shows. Now you think about it, right? People make comments about black people all the time. They make comments about black people all the time, and whether it be true or not, these things are still being made. But we aren't as protected enough to the point where if somebody spoke ill of us, then they're losing money. Gotta understand, a lot of these artists, they don't get paid off the music. They get paid off these shows, appearances. So if you're getting the opportunity to sit there and do a big SoFi Stadium show, or performing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium out in New Orleans, when you see this, when you see you get these opportunities, and when you lose them, that could be a big issue, honestly. So yeah. So if there's something that he's fighting for in that sense, I could see him fighting for that. And who wouldn't? When you have an opportunity of that magnitude, and then it's being taken away from you, and people aren't willing to work with you in certain aspects, it could be a big thing. Now, you got to understand who we're dealing with as a whole. You're dealing with Ye, who's probably one of them. I think he's at billionaire status at this point. Let's look this up. We're gonna do King Talk fact check. You know, the King Talk fact check live on air. Gonna see Ye's net worth. I know that shit is in the billions. It might not even be true online, but this gives us a good benchmark on the what. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. All right, so they got him at who's day? Let's see. Sorry for the silence. Google got him basically at 2 billion. So basically, you don't really have that many. I think at this point he's pretty much the richest African American in history. You know, not the richest African in history. That goes to Mansa Musa. But in terms of America, Kanye's that guy. All right. So when you're that guy, when you're making $2 billion, you know, when you're worth that much, you find that nobody can really tell you what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like after this, I seen him on Piers Morgan. I seen a clip of him on Piers Morgan, and he asked him like, you know, how much money you make, you know, and Piers Morgan got to come out and say, not as much, you know, not as much as you. I mean, like, yeah. So yeah, it's like, yeah. So how about you start taking advice from me, you know? And I'm like, bro, like, granted, even though yes, you do make a lot of money, you're worth a lot. At the same time, you have to consider it like this: just because you make a lot does not mean that you could, you know what I'm saying, you could discard everybody's situation, because quicker you come up, quicker you come down, honestly. But yeah, like that's like his flex. So a lot of his contemporaries can't really reach out to him because he's already at a certain point in his career where it's like, listen, I don't, you know, you're not making as much money to me. In comparison, you broke. So, you know, like, why should I be taking advice from you when I'm already ahead of you in net worth? You know what I'm saying? You should be taking advice from me. You should be coming to me, you know? And that's kind of the thing. So when he tells Diddy, hey, yo, nigga, fuck you, you know what I'm saying? When he brushes off Jay-Z, and that used to be his bro, when he gets all of these different, all of his contemporaries in a group chat and then promptly shits on all of them. You know, I think he had a group text with Jay-Z, Diddy, Kim K, Travis Scott, and then it just promptly shitted on all of them. When you come to one of his listening parties and you find out like, hey, you gotta be in dress code. If you ain't in dress code, you gotta strip. Which happened to a big boy and one of the iHeartRadio execs. If like nobody could check you, right? It's like you could just pretty much go on and say anything, and nobody's gonna really come back to you and be like, oh, nah, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. That's wrong. You know, the George Floyd points, for example, you know, nobody checked that. You understand? Especially at least in that setting, because when he was talking about how he died of fentanyl, and you know, the guy that he was on his neck, but he didn't die because of that. And I'm like, listen, you saw the tape. You know what I'm saying? You saw the tape. I saw the tape, just like everybody else across the country saw that footage. You know, as heartbreaking as it was, we had to sit through that shit. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole big thing during pandemic. Everybody's in there. Picture this: you in your house because you can't go to work. You can't really go out. Because you go out, you catch the, you know, the virus, quote unquote. You understand? So you're in the house and you're just watching TV. You're on Facebook. You're doing, you know, you're consuming a lot of content. Within that content, you're also seeing a grown man, and his knee on top of another grown man's neck. Now, you could tell me what you want. You know what I'm saying? You could tell me what you want. You could say what you want. But at the end of the day, I know what I saw with my own two eyes. And I seen a grown man with his knee on top of another grown man's neck, for about 8 minutes, basically killing that man. You know what I'm saying? So you could say it's about fentanyl and everything of that nature, but at the same time, you're not going to Jedi mind trick the situation, and be like, yo, that wasn't it. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't it because I'm rich and that's what it is. Nah, bro. Like, it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. You're not going to Jedi mind trick that shit and then expect people to be like, oh, okay, well, that's just it. Let's just wave it off. No. You know what I'm saying? The more that we don't see the truth, I feel like the more ignorant we become. You know what I'm saying? The more that, we deny things that we see right in front of us. I think that's kind of a fatal flaw that people have, and people do believe that shit. But, oh, well, he died of fentanyl. Like Candace Owens made a whole documentary about that situation. Oh, well, he was using fentanyl and everything like that, so that cop couldn't have killed him. I'm like, bro, everybody it was a busy street. That street was packed. It wasn't packed, but it was, a lot of people was there. There's a lot of witnesses. I'm pretty sure they won't say that, oh, it was about, fentanyl. You know what I'm saying? Although, to be fair, fentanyl is a dangerous drug that, if you take a few more grains than needed to, you could probably kill yourself. But let's be real. That particular situation was not the case of fentanyl. So let's get that out the way. Sidebar with that, George Floyd's family is now suing not only Ye, but also N.O.R.E and Drink Champs for about $250 million regarding those comments. And I feel like that's kind of short-sighted on the family's part. I understand the hurt. I understand everything that family, I get it. You're hurt. You don't want people speaking ill of the dead, and I get it. If you want to sue anybody, there's anybody you want to sue, you might have to sue Candace Owens, because she came out with a documentary that stated that. Ye was just speaking on it. You know what I'm saying? And I could see, people suing him over, people who made the original documentary, because, like I said before, the man's worth $2 billion. You know what I'm saying? So you could sit there between Ye's $2 billion and N.O.R.E's and Revolt's and DJ Effen's money. You could sit there and squeeze out $250 million for the family for speaking ill on that. But the problem with that is, one, Ye spoke on it, but he spoke on that from a source from one of the people that he apparently hangs with. N.O.R.E didn't really say shit, which is another issue in itself. He didn't really combat that. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, come on, bro. Like, come on. You can't be clapping monkeys all the time. That's crazy. You can't really sue those guys for that, because they're like, Ye's getting their source from another place, and the guys who was on the network, didn't really say much to it. And on top of that, there was a disclaimer at the top of the episode saying that Ye's comments have no relation or does not display the views of Drink Champs, N.O.R.E, FN, Revolt, or subsidiaries, which basically, in a sense, waives them from whatever he's going to say. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's a big thing. We get mad when people have these comments and everything, and I get it. I get it. These topics are very contentious. At the same time, it's freedom of speech. You understand? It's freedom of speech. And that's the one thing that, even though, you may disagree with somebody on, your views may be different, things of that nature, at the end of the day, we're currently in a country where we're able to, say what we want with no consequence, until people make consequences. So, being a fact, right? We're going to get into the second half of this shit real quick. Being a fact that how I made those comments about Jewish media and everything like that, what happened next was a major backlash, on the show, not only on Ye, but also on N.O.R.E and the show himself. There's a lot of backlash about that. People did not like the fact that, you know, you were speaking on the Jewish community in that way. It's kind of similar to that episode of Cannon's class on Nick Cannon's podcast when they were talking about the original Jews being black. They didn't like that either. So apparently that, you know, you gotta understand, Jewish community, they're also in higher places too. Like they own a lot of the shit that we consume. Viacom being one. If you know Viacom, you know they own MTV, BET, VH1. Basically, a lot of the networks, at least anywhere between 33 to 45% of the cable networks that you regularly consume, Viacom owns that. You know? And they're heavy in the Jewish community. So if you're speaking down on them, but yet you're on Wild 'N Out the next Tuesday, yeah, they gonna cancel Wild 'N Out, you know, until you apologize and capitulate, you know, then you get your stuff back, you know. So in an effort not to sit there and get into that type of situation where you're getting your stuff taken away, which is weird because for Drink Champs, they're under Revolt, which is owned by Diddy, which then makes me question, well, shit, if they, oh, by the way, being the fact that they got all this backlash, they ended up taking down that episode. I had to find that episode from another source. But yeah, they had to take down that episode, which is crazy considering, it goes back to my point, with Revolt being owned by Diddy, it begs the question, who is Diddy owned by? You know what I'm saying? Because for me, if I had a network, right? And if I had, like, say if I have this podcast network and I'm saying some shit, but I own the network that I'm on outright. There's nobody above me. I'm pretty much Don Cornelius in the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking nothing down. Like, I'm not going to take nothing down. Now, will it be harder for me to sit there and parlay my situation into other networks? Yes. Because like I said, when it comes down to like 33 to 45% of the networks that you watch it on, a lot of that's owned by Viacom, you know? And the other portion of that, for the most part, is owned by people that's heavy in the Jewish community. So, I say that to say this. N.O.R.E to sit there and take that, in Revolt to take that episode down, and because Ye was also on LeBron's podcast, The Shop. He was on The Shop, and they ended up taking his episode down as well. If we're so heavy on ownership, right? Why are we so apologetic? You know? Speaking of apologies, N.O.R.E is either now as of this recording or finished as of this recording his apology tour. You know, because you know when you make these type of moves and you do these things, you kind of have to apologize for what you do. You know, you have to apologize for what you do. You have to apologize for what was said. You know, and then that'd be the only way you could really get your show back. You know, Nick Cannon had to do it. He had to go on Breakfast Club. He had to go on Hot Nine. He had to go on social media and do his apology tour. You know, and then a new season of Wild 'N Out came out. But if you outright own your platform, do you really have to apologize for thoughts that you really mean? You understand? Like, N.O.R.E's talking about, like, when he did the apology, I think he was on Breakfast Club, or like Ebro was interviewing him, and he was talking about how, this isn't Think Champs, this is Drink Champs. And I'm like, wait a minute. So wait, are you telling us, right, that your podcast is nothing more, if anything, is nothing more than just people getting drunk and yucking it up? Like, there's no value there. And I have a huge problem with that. You know what I'm saying? Because with a lot of stuff that's going on, especially in our community, if you got the reach, I figure like, hey, why not? You know, I don't have to reach as a N.O.R.E. or as a revolt, but I'm living like in these spaces, so it's like I could speak on it. But even I'm speaking on it, and I'm like, in comparison, a smaller podcaster, and when it comes down to it, it's really a big deal. So now you got to be mindful, for the most part, in what you're consuming. And now I'm talking with the people that consume podcasts on a daily basis. You got to be mindful of what you're consuming, because when you have podcasts that's out here, and this is not a drink champs bashing session. This is really not. But there are certain things that I see that I find concerning. If you're sitting there, right, and you're telling people, hey, I'm that we're just out here having fun, we drink champs, we're the Turn Up podcast. I'm all for Turn Up podcast. The Premier Boys podcast is one of them. You know what I'm saying? We get on, we get on the mics, we get on the show. We talk a lot about these issues. We make jokes. We have fun. We sipping. We smoking. It's lit. I get it, but at the same time, and this is what kind of differentiates Premier Boys from other podcasts. We are talking about talking about topics of value. People come away from Premier Boys, King Talk, Gentleman Lifestyle podcast with a little bit more value that they didn't have before. At least I can say it for this, and there's other podcasts that's around, that's out there, that brings more value. You know what I'm saying? So what I try to tell people is this: if you want podcasts that's going to make you think, that's going to make you question a few things, yeah, check those podcasts out. If you want a podcast that's out, that's all about, that's turning up, having fun, clapping it up, having shots, enjoy those too. We got it. The beauty of having these type of everybody making podcasts is that you now have a selection of what to listen to and what not to listen to. I'm not going to sit there and tell you what not to listen to, right? I just find it funny that when you invite people on a show that whether you agree or disagree with their thought process, they come out with thought-provoking content, and that they're going to come out with thought-provoking content, and then you want to sit there when the shit hits the fan, you want to sit there and be like, oh, well, nah, we not even that guy. He basically sounded like the rappers that be rapping about like being outside and killing shit and selling drugs and moving weight, and then they get in front of the DA and be like, oh, nah, it's about music. That's just music. That's not what I do. I do give backs. It's almost Thanksgiving. I give out turkeys. Halloween's coming up. I'm giving out pumpkins. That's not my life. Nah, bro. We as a people can't do two things. Number one, we can't say one thing on this mic, right? And then when shit hits the fan, we're now talking about, oh, that's not what this was. That's not what it is. It's something else. Oh, it's just entertainment. I'm like, bro, you can't switch that up. Either you are about that or you're not about that. And if you're not about that, why are you out here in the business of selling that type of mindset to other people? You know what? I'm going to save that for another episode. I was about to get into these rappers real quick because, listen, the way they taking these pleas is insane. But honestly, like, we could sit here and talk about this whole situation, and we're like, the reason why we're having to apologize just to sit there and get our situation moving back again is more or less about us not really owning our own shit. Let's think about it. We're not owning. We're not coming together and forming a power where you can't speak ill on us. So, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta apologize. We're not at that point yet. And I don't know why we're not. Well, I have an idea of why we're not. But I feel like we're not, because when we create something, and then we were creating something that's actually going to be beneficial to the people, we want to sell it. You know, we want to sell it to the highest bidder. You don't believe me? Look at Versus. You know what I'm saying? You got Versus. When Versus dropped, when it first dropped during pandemic, it was a big fucking deal. We was like, yo, this is great for the community. We get to see all the acts that we used to see, all the artists that we didn't see in a while come back and put their top hits against another artist that we didn't see in a while, top hits. And then we put it together. And then we not only get a good battle of see who was better, but also we get an enjoyable evening when it comes down to, hearing these two artists go back and forth, with their features and everything. And that was a big thing. And then now, that Swiss and Timbaland sold that to Triller for X amount of dollars. You're looking at that situation and it's like, wait a minute. Now they're going through issues. I mean, yeah, granted, you have good podcasts and everything like that. Not good podcasts, I'm sorry. You have good matchups and everything like that, and we review them. I definitely review them for the most part. But at the same point, you can't tell me that the Versus post the Triller sale was better than the Versus pre-Triller sale. You know what I'm saying? It's like once you get the money, then it's like, all right, now you good because you got paid big from these guys. When you could have just sat there and kept that shit with us as a people, and then we could have grew that. That's the problem. I think Michael Rainey from Power spoke on that when that sale went down, So you're probably wondering, like, why am I mixing the Versus shit with the Drink Champ shit? And it comes down to one simple thing. We got to do better in owning our own content. It's way different to sit there and you can't be, and not being able to be canceled because you have your content that, you can still push and you own it outright. You're not selling to these big guys, You're not like capitulating to their standards. You're creating your own standards. And I think with N.O.R.E, like, I feel like he made, and this is just me, I feel like he made a big mistake apologizing. Now, if anybody should have apologized in that situation, if you're looking for an apology, if anybody should have apologized, it probably would have been Ye. Ye should have apologized. And then if we're looking for apologies here, Ye should have apologized and then kept it moving. Because honestly, with a lot of the shit that he's saying done between the White Lives Matter shirts and the MAGA hats and running for president, quote unquote, whatever the fuck that was, if he had said those things, when he said those things, a lot of people took it as, all right, that's just Ye being Ye. It's just Ye being Ye. That's what he does, And they'd be right, because that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? But for N.O.R.E, for you to apologize, I felt like that was a bit premature. And honestly, it didn't really make much sense. I guess he was trying to protect himself from any blowback on his end. But honestly, at the same time, you kind of knew what you was getting into, because this wasn't the first time that Kanye was on the show. I was on the show before, and I think we spoke about it before. You understand? So you already know what he was going to come with on the second time, especially when he's been making a lot of noise with the White Lives Matter shirts, with the Candace Owens doc, with his own documentary that was on YouTube. With all of those things, he was already making a lot of noise. So whatever that first interview was, you as a podcaster or a streamer or whatever you want to call it, because you don't want to say you're a journalist. So fine, we're not going to call you a journalist. But you being a part of that situation, you should have known, like, hey, Kanye's coming on, man. Yo, he's gonna be crazy. He's gonna be saying a lot of shit that that might shake some feathers. You know what I'm saying? It might rattle a few cages. We gotta get out in front of that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that comes down to knowing your guest. If I invite a guest here, right, on this show, I'm already in the mindset of being like, okay, I know how I have an idea of what he's going to do, what he's going to say, because I follow a lot of his and her stuff, follow a lot of their content. So for the most part, I know what to expect, right? And I felt like, granted, he probably was doing this for views or for content, because like I said before, everything's content. Everything is content. And if you want to have Ye come out and talk for about 3 hours, if you're going to have Ye come out and talk for 3 hours unscripted, you're going to hear some shit. And it might be some shit that will rattle enough cages where now you're getting a lot of blowback on this. Now, like I said before, he was on Piers Morgan and he apologized. He did one of those apologies where you're not apologizing for what you said, you apologize how it made you feel. And I've done that before. See Aaron Hates Women season 2. You apologize for what people felt about that, because like I said before, people's feelings are important. You know what I'm saying? So you could apologize for what they might feel regarding that whole situation or regarding your comments, but your comments are your comments. And if you're a man, if you believe what you're talking about, because sometimes in a moment you could be like, hey, I said this was it, this is what it is, da da da, and then you look back and be like, damn, I shouldn't have meant that. And that happens, right? But if you're standing 10 toes on that, right? If you 10 toes down on your points and you're not wavering, bruh, the only thing you should be apologizing for is how you're making people feel about the statements that you're 10 toes down on. And that's really it. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah. I really hope, I think Drink Champs is gonna, still prosper from this, because they're gonna, like, listen, no bad promotion is still promotion nonetheless. So people are gonna either come back and listen to the pod. They're gonna come back and listen to the pod because they're fans, which is great. I'm a fan, so I'm definitely gonna come back and listen. But also they're gonna come back to see like any backlash in the next in any upcoming interviews, and want to see how things how N.O.R.E and DJ F is gonna finesse situations. You know what I'm saying? But if you seen the interview, he's talking about we're not think champs, we're drink champs. Then you pretty much have an idea of how it may go. So there's that. We'll be back with special announcements and closing thoughts. Hey, what up? It's your boy Aaron Sands, and I know you're enjoying this episode of King Talk right now, but I want to dive in a little bit and talk about the Premier Boys podcast. You got me, Aaron Sands, Ken the Gentleman, the homie Roddy Rod, and long live the Chief Mally Mal, all in the building, talking about the hottest entertainment topics, the hottest news topics, and giving our own take on what's going on out here in these streets. It can get raunchy. It could get crazy. You might even be talking about somebody's mama. Who knows? But every Wednesday at midnight, check us out on Apple, Good Pods. Don't forget to drop that 5-star rating and all wherever else you hear your podcast. Now back to the show, man. All right, guys, I just want to get some closing thoughts real quick before we roll out. I told you I was going to be a short one. Yeah, I wasn't lying. Got some things I got to catch up on, and I want to prepare for the Drunken Idiots podcast, and I'm about to jump on for this Friday. Check that out. So I'm going to give you some closing thoughts on the Ye situation. One of the points that he did mention in his interview with N.O.R.E and DJ FN, was at the 22-minute and 5-second mark. He also said that Drake is the greatest rapper ever. And you guys know how I feel about, how I feel about Drake, how Premier Boys feel about Drake. Matter of fact, right now you could go and type music sexual underneath his IG, because yeah. Being the greatest rapper ever is a stretch. I have my top 5 right now. The way the game is set up, that top 5 is not wavering. That's where we are. You already know my top 5 being simple and easy. And this is all top 5 alive. Jay-Z, Nas. I'll go with Jada, Eminem, Kendrick. Drake is definitely in that top 10 list. I would say he's like 7. You know what I'm saying? I would say Kendrick's 5. Album mentions would be like J. Cole 6. J. Cole 6. Wayne 7. Then Drake. And then Cam after that. So yeah. But yeah, I can't see him being the greatest rapper ever. Now, granted, yeah, if you have beef with the dude, he might smash your baby moms, he might smash your ex, he might smash your moms even. You feel me? So if she's bad enough, he might. So in terms of war, in terms of like beef, yeah, because of the fact that he could probably smash any woman he want, including and not limited to the women that's probably in the person he's beefing with life. Didn't work out too well for that beef. The whole beef shit ain't work out well with Pusha T, but that's another story. But yeah, putting him as the greatest rapper ever, stretch. This man's fantastic forward stretch moves. I don't know, but I do know that I do have some special announcements to get into. I did promise that, and I'm going to get into that right now. So, earlier in the season, I had Ken on. We did the Brotherhood crossover episodes. I came on Mr. Gentleman Lifestyles podcast. You can check that out. And he came on King Talk, the second episode of the 3rd season. And we discussed not only the fate of the Premier Voice podcast, but also one of his members, Roddy Rod. And Ken went into detail of why, that riff is there. Why that riff is like, hot and heavy. So next week on King Talk with Aaron Sands, we got Roddy Rod on the podcast with us. He's going to be our special guest for this next for the next episode. Giving him the whole show, full 60 minutes. I invited him on at the end of that episode. I'm giving him the whole show, full 60 minutes. We can talk about whatever, as long as we talk about that. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be talking about the whole Roddy versus Ken and Gentleman situation. We're going to be talking about the fate of Premier Boys podcast, coming from his view on that. Also, we're talking about all those hot entertainment subjects that's going on during the week. So I've been looking forward to this interview for a little while. I'm glad I'm getting it. It's going to be fire, and I can only hope that you guys tune in and check it out. But in the meantime, for now, you can follow me on IG at Aaron Sands Premier. That's AARONSANDSPREMIERE. If you ain't feel like spelling all that, the link's in the description. Same thing for for Twitter and Good Pods and Discord now. King Talk Sands. Link in the description for all of those. Catch me next week when I interview Roddy Rod. We're gonna dive deep into all of these issues and all of the hot entertainment news that you come here to see. You already know what it is. It's Aaron Sands. And if it's Fridays, it's King Talk. Take care, people.
This is Star Roddy Rod, and you are now listening to King